Hello, and welcome to PlayStation Unchained, back properly after many, many weeks, and yet still we're going to do a special. I am your host, Neil Bolts, joined as ever by Ben Chille Hall.
Yes, I am here.
That is
Yay.
correct. Also joined by Tim. I still can't think of anything, Tim. I really can't. I had something in the middle of the week, and I thought if I don't write this down, I'll forget it.
That's a really long nickname.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything for this. I thought I'd recommend some. I can't even remember it now. It's that long.
I think my next gimmick is just going to be I'm going to start reeling off some long story that's of no consequence and go, oh yeah, nudes. That's it.
Sold.
Nuance.
Nuance.
Nice. Very apt. Thank you.
And also joining us today is Garri Bagazarov.
I'm here. Welcome me.
I welcomed you.
Welcome.
Well, I introduced you. Welcomed is a bit, friendly by that comparison. But back on the hashtags. We're of course not joined by Chris DeVizzo, who's out for Mother's Day, as all good mothers' boys should be. And
Hey, stop it.
Hey, my mommy left me to go to Europe today, so I'm all alone.
And
I wondered who was why I saw your mum in Scarborough.
Really? Your mum joke already? Come on. So it's kind of fortunate that Chris isn't here because Chris has not finished hit video game God of War.
Such a loser, man.
And he probably hasn't finished the hit video game of 2004-5 God of War either. So we might be waiting a while. It's easier when he's not here, so he can't defend himself.
It's so much easier when they can't say anything back.
God damn it, Garri.
I'm not going to be there later, so I might just hand him the problematic stickers, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I got a sticker trigger finger. That was weird to say. I got it.
Anyway, yes, we are going to do a God of War kind of spoiler cast because I think it's been a while since we've all played it, but we were waiting for that, and we may have forgotten some things, but yeah, we'll pick up.
Forgotten nothing.
Of course, Garri hasn't.
I've forgotten most of it.
Perfect. It's a wash.
So me and Garri will talk about God of War for
Yeah.
basically,
And I will nod happily.
We can see that.
Great. Yeah, that very much lends itself to this medium.
Just do the tropish yes, quite.
Yes.
I think it's probably quite short in that regard. We'll probably do some regular Unchained stuff after that. Yeah, why not? Get back in the swing of things, as they say. As you know, we're almost at E3, a month away. We'll get there soon. But for this week, let's concentrate on the past, because the past is a great thing for all of video games. In this case, of course, God of War came out 10s out of 10s everywhere, and not from us, unfortunately, but so we didn't get to go on the big fancy poster. But we still liked it. As you remember, we had Kyle on a while back to sort of talk about it before the game was out in the open. And he was, I had to say, having now played it, he was very good at handling all the potential spoilery stuff. He did a very good job of just sort of detailing what we wanted to know without ruining anything, which is better than a good 98% of the internet when it came to Infinity War, I have to say. So
I agree. They spoiled a lot of it. Well, yeah.
Enough of it. It's the age of enough sites go around going, well, if we just say this bit ambiguously, it won't matter. But then, of course, another site will say, oh, but if we say this bit ambiguously, no one will get it. The thing is, there are people that happen to know how to piece things together in their head. And yes, it doesn't help. It's an age-old problem. But for God of War, luckily, nothing got spoiled for me, which was lovely. It's like, because I feared big time, like Red Dead and Heavy Rain in 2010, where both of those games got spoiled before I finished them. Oof, that was before we had Twitter, really, as it is now. So, first of all, brief description. What is God of War? It's Kratos. Come on, stop being stupid. It's Kratos.
It is?
And
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Kratos and his
I thought
boy.
it was Joel.
Yes, it could have been. Not. I mean, I have to say Ellie's regressed somewhat, if that's the case. But yeah, and yeah, in general. But yes, it's the story, not of like saving the world necessarily, not of conquering some great evil. It's merely we want to go up the fucking mountain. Please, let's go up the fucking mountain and do our thing and go home. But of course, being Kratos, nobody's going to let him go home easy or get to the mountain easily. And so begins a long journey on which he decapitates, mutilates, and generally scolds people and children alike. And it's great fun. It has to be said. I think we have differing levels of how fun we found it and how much we enjoyed it. But Ben, I believe, gave it his standard. I really like this game, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it was 8 out of 10. It was pretty good.
I do like that, Ben. It is like you go, oh, this is amazing. I love this game, 8 out of 10. Every time. I mean, what's a 10, Ben? What's a 10?
Goat Simulator.
10, but Goat Simulator would be close to it. Even Final Fantasy 14, I wouldn't give a 10. I wouldn't really give anything a 10.
Except for me.
That would be 11.
Yeah, baby.
If the only thing you were riddled with was flaws, Garri.
Ben is going to glitch me out in 5 minutes. Hot.
Okay, so first off, brief sort of how much did we like the game thing, and then we'll go into specific bits. So Tim, as you say, you don't have a lot to say necessarily, which in Tim words probably means you're going to go on about something for a while, aren't you?
Well, I mean, oh. Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, yeah, well.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, in general, I would say, yeah, I had a really good time with it. There were some really strong parts that really resonated, and I'm not sure. I'd like to know where, like, a lot of other people stand on those opinions. But yeah, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, that's very much true. Garri?
So,
How did you in summary, how did you feel about God of War?
I absolutely love God of War. This is already my favorite one. And yeah, can't wait to talk more about it. It also helps that it's in my favorite mythology as well this time.
So it's been good to go into that mythology more. It's like just mythology in general is fun, and it's God of War, the original God of War games for me. I love Greek mythology. I grew up on stuff like Clash of the Titans and stuff, and it's like, oh, this is brilliant to see more of this stuff in a video game. And this, we've had years of Skyrim for fuck's sake, so it's nice to see something closer to the actual Norse stuff that isn't like Chris Hemsworth swinging a hammer.
There you go.
Much I have no objection to Chris Hemsworth swinging his hammer at all, but that's a story for another day. Ben, 8 out of 10?
Yeah, 8 out of 10. Yeah.
8 out of 10.
I don't care how many people are pissed off, it deserves. That's what it felt to me like it deserved.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to faults and flaws and such, but we'll go through different stuff. Story, I suppose, is the first thing, isn't it? I mean, we could talk about the combat and the way the game's designed, but that's for later. Which do you want to do first? Combat, the story, other things? What's the general thinking here? We'll go with...
I say combat, because story's probably going to take us a long time.
Yeah, and then we'll be like, oh yeah, combat, that was alright. And I mean, obviously Kyle discussed a lot of this when we did the cast a few weeks ago, because that was pretty much the only thing he could talk about without spoiling much. But yeah, oh my goodness, that axe is just great fun to use. That has to be said. It's very much a more intimate combat experience than the older God of Wars, but also still manages to get that feeling of an epic scale to it at times that makes it still feel like God of War, despite playing very, very differently. I agree with what I saw much said before the game came out and the earlier reviews of it has a feel almost of a third person shooter, sorry, in the way it controls with the shoulder buttons and the way you're doing stuff. I think that's why, especially early doors, I found myself using the axe a lot more because it felt like a gun almost, and the special, Atreus ends up being like your additional move, if you will, and seeing the way it sort of grows over time with new moves and stuff, and it's just remains fun to do throughout. I found anyway, and just when things got ramped up, it was very much the old God of War with the new set of materials. What about you, Tim?
Are we doing a full spoiler cast, or are we?
Yeah, we are
being
Spoil
subtle.
the shit out of it.
It is
Okay.
City.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so warning, spoilers everywhere.
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 Everywhere a spoiler went, the spoils were sure to go. It's really funny. Like you mentioned that you say how good the axe was, and sure, I was totally content with it until the moment when he gave up and said that he had to, he had to go back and get his original weapons. The oh my god,
The chains,
Blades of Olympus.
Blades of Chaos.
Blades of Chaos, yes. But,
Yeah.
Well, he didn't give up. He had no choice.
I mean,
His axe wouldn't work where he was going.
I mean, yeah, that was a good way to get it back in there. But at the same time, that line was like the most out of keeping with the rest of the story. I think it felt too Hollywood, that line. It's just like, no, I must do what I vowed I would. No, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
Like,
I promised
it.
not to go back to my home, but now I must go back to my home.
Which we'll also go back to later.
Yeah, that was one of the points where I feel like he could have just stayed the silent, somber guy, because it would have fit so well. Like, that boat scene. I know I'm kind of digressing, but we're on the point where we're on the boat, and then Athena shows up and starts trying to talk to him and things. Get out of my head, Athena. Like, that's all he had to say during that whole sequence. And the entire point would have come across, but he had to do that.
Well, to be fair, he couldn't go, get out of my head, Athena, boy.
I know, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice spot, but yeah, it was a bit overplayed. I know they were trying to ramp up there is a ridiculousness to how God of War deals with itself, but it's less so here, and I think that did make that a bit mawkish where it shouldn't have been. But fuck me, was it good to get the Blades of Chaos back and have this different mindset.
Yeah, dude. And I guess where I've digressed in different directions to my point. That I loved using the Blades of Chaos in this new combat style. The moment I got them, I prioritized them. I only used the axe when I needed to.
Yeah, it became my new baby, and I think it was just introduced at just the right time in that respect. Because it's like, as fun as the axe combat is, it gave you a refresher from it without doing the cheap, now we must take your weapons away bollocks that you get sometimes. And it's
hashtag Devil May Cry 4.
Everything. Yeah, see in the categories. It's terrible.
Yeah, Dander hates that game.
Yeah, but it's like even when you don't have the axe before you even get the blade to get us, it's just that whole melee combat where he's just lovely meaty thuds and the way he hits stuff. But as I think is the theme throughout the game, he is very much pulling his punches a lot of the time, and compared to what he could do, it takes fights against actual gods for him to have to put the effort in. And I mean, you see very early on that he's a bit rusty at doing proper fighting.
Right.
But yeah, it's always been the key thing about God of War is the combat. But I think it just feels much more satisfying in general here than it ever did before. I think, being closer to with the camera and everything, I think that's the main thing for it.
For sure. But I think the only inconsistency in terms of combat is kind of like it's a weird criticism, but like, if you can see him hoist basically a Sequoia with no issue, I have a little trouble believing that whenever he punches anything, it's not just going to disintegrate.
Yeah.
And like gods, right? Like I get it. You know, gods are going to be of the same type of metal that he's made. So yeah, okay. But you know, undead, frozen things, like that's two birds right there. You have undead, which is going to be just frail shit, and then you have frozen, which is going to be brittle. So I mean, I get you have to make it a game, but at the same time, he can lift a goddamn Sequoia.
But they also, in a way, try to mask it story-wise because he doesn't want Atreus to know how powerful he is. So in a way, you can think about it like he's holding himself back on purpose to not show his son what he can really do.
Maybe.
Which is where the end game can be a problem if you've got stuff to do.
Yeah, except the end game when he does, yeah.
Yeah, so a tricky thing, which obviously won't be a problem next time around. But,
you can remember though, as he's going through this story, he was getting more open with his son, realizing that he had to tell him stuff.
Yeah. And he got to practice fighting a lot more. Again, So, but yeah, he's I don't know. It's just it was definitely an anomaly to it. That I could definitely agree on that one. Anyone else want to chime in with some combat thoughts?
Go ahead, man.
I really enjoyed the axe, but that's only because I would throw it like Thor's hammer, go around and punch some stuff, and stand in front of someone, call it back, and see it go right through them. I'm like,
without wanting to say any spoilers for Infinity War, really, but yeah, it was nice watching that after this, considering that and certain thing that happened in that. It was like, look at that.
But yeah, the axe combat is my favourite part. I like the Blades of Chaos, but I would always go back to the axe. Something about the axe felt meaty and lovely.
Yeah, I just like the more that obviously as the story went on, Atreus got more involved in combat, and he upgraded at the same time to be involved in combat more, which was great. And just some of the team moves are excellent.
Like when he'd jump on their head so you can attack them. So,
yay! The timing of it's grand. I like. I'll let Garri carry on first before we go any further with that. But,
for me, I love the hand-to-hand combat over the other two. I just loved running up and doing this Roman Reigns Superman punch on dudes. I really liked using the axe as well. Like Ben said, I love throwing the axe at somebody and then running up and just wailing on like 3 or 4 other dudes with hand-to-hand combat and then recalling the axe. I thought they did a fantastic job of making essentially all 3 weapons useful. Like usually when you'll play in a game, it's like, oh, hand-to-hand combat, that's stupid. They're probably going to have specific enemies that can only be damaged that way. But I think what the cool thing that they did with his fists is they're not essentially a damage-dealing combat, but more of a stunner. And then that allows you to go in and instantly kill an enemy once you stun them. And I love doing that stuff. And some of the harder enemies, like the wolf guys, the werewolf guys, those dudes are assholes and they are hard to fight. But stunning them isn't that hard, and once you do that, easy peasy on those guys.
It's the combination of all the powers that makes it. I think from the arrows to the axe to the chains to the fist and the shield even. It's just. The fact you can combine them in so many different ways, and it feels good. It all connects nicely.
Like I loved using the chains, but I found myself constantly going back to the axe simply because it was so much easier to transition to hand with the axe than it is with the blades. Because all you have to do is just throw your axe, and then you're instantly in hand-to-hand combat. Whereas with the chains, you kind of have to press the D-pad button. I think it was the D-pad button to switch to hand-to-hand combat when you have the blades out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I loved everything about it. The combat I just thought was great. The only real problem I had is constantly pushing the wrong goddamn button with the axe. And instead of blocking, I would throw the damn thing.
Yeah, that happened.
Always, and it just infuriated me so much. But
it didn't seem to punish you for it, so I found, which was nice. Many games that could be a deal breaker, but I think the fact that there was other options available to you had you done that is why it worked for me.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Tim has joined us again, back just in time. Woo! So, yeah, we've talked about the combat stuff. As I said, we talked a lot about it when Kyle was on. It's pretty much the same stuff. It's evolved in a new way. It's very different to how it was, but also still feels very much God of War-esque. Particularly in how the way the game is designed, which is now very Metroidvania style. As I think we alluded to before, it's almost Darksiders-esque in the way it's you move around the area and unlock new stuff when you get new abilities, and that's great, to be honest. I like games like that. It's a fantastic way of doing stuff. Seeing stuff for so long through that game and thinking, God, we've been going hours now and haven't even got a chance to go and do those things. I still don't know how to do them. And then you'll get whatever you need to do it. And you're like, oh, right, now I can enter all these new areas. And then just, especially when the end game's done, whether you do it before or not, it opens up some new areas that you've never seen and new things, and like discovering the dragons and such. Like it's full of lovely little secrets and hidey holes, and that was surprising, because it isn't open. It is just very much like a very tunneled down sort of open world. So
it's Darksiders. You explained it perfect.
Yeah,
it's how Darksiders is.
That's it. Some big areas, some corridors made to look pretty, which is fine, because you don't really think about it when you're playing it. You're just like, I'm on the journey, I'm doing this thing, it's cool. And they managed to differentiate really well, I think, as they go on, and especially in what they have in terms of scenery, because you see obviously in the trailers, it's like most of it looks like snowy snow, which is great and everything, but it's like even Skyrim had to have somewhere else that wasn't just snow eventually.
No, it doesn't.
It was when you start going places, thanks to the World Tree, it's quite the moment. You get to see some different places for a bit. Probably not as many as you'd like to, I think, but they're clearly holding stuff back for the sequel. It's like because you look at that World Tree and there's places you don't get to go properly, and that's.
Yeah, they're saving those for future games, I think. I don't think there'll be any DLC.
No, they want to continue, and they're clearly going to continue this story, as we'll get to. Any words on the world itself? There's not much to say, I think, in terms of how it looks, and the game can be bloody gorgeous at times, has to be said. It's a shame photo mode came a bit later. But it's just even like the hub area, which is with the bridge and all that, is just amazing amount of stuff to sort of go and discover, whilst still sort of making sure you don't lose focus too much. It's the right amount of open world, as we said. It just has that flexibility to it. That
I still got lost.
I got lost once, but like I said, when that happened, I went and found other things. And that's the greatest thing. If you can find a game that you can get lost in and then go and do other stuff as a result, and it'd be a happy accident, it's nice. I like that. And then when I found out why I was lost, it's just because I'd forgotten a place that I'd gone to before. I was being too literal with how I believe they get there. It's where Thor's statue is, and you think you could. I forgot you could go round it and into the cave. I was there for ages thinking, how do I get back there? How do I get there? But as a result, I got to see more of the backstory. So it was a nice thing to happen. What about you, Garri?
I absolutely loved exploring the world. I love how you're in the same area, but then more of it opens up, not because you open up a new secret passage or something, but because the water drops and this whole new dungeon's revealed to you, essentially, or this whole new area to explore, like the Dwarven King. When you go to his big old castle, in that area there's a dragon there you got to release as well. I absolutely loved it. I can see why it was kind of hard to navigate, because the map isn't the best and the compass isn't the best either. But I don't see how you guys could have gotten lost. I really don't.
I just think I wasn't concentrating enough on what I was doing, because I was just liking everything I was seeing, and so I've got to go see what's over there. I've got to see what's over there. It's just getting distracted, which is a lovely thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, for me, maybe just how I played the game, but I literally memorized where everything was, so it helped me a lot to not get lost. I didn't memorize the names of anything, because I can't pronounce Norse names for the life of me. But once I know, okay, the Valkyries, I know exactly where that's at. I know where I'm gonna go. Yeah, to me, just it wasn't hard. And every time, say I looked up a video of how to find a collectible or something, I knew exactly where to go just from the image that they had. So for me, it wasn't a problem, and I loved collecting a lot of the stuff in the game. I really did. The storyboards that you find, the big old closet doors that you open, and Atreus starts. I love those. I love how he just goes into this backstory, because Kratos, for all the time he's lived in Norse times, didn't learn the language, I guess. Lazy bastard. But yeah, the treasure hunts were fun. Everything for me when it came to the exploring was fun. I actually went out of my way to just go and find cool stuff. And the thing that I really enjoyed about this game that other games don't do is a lot of the time when you go and do the side stuff, you become so powerful that by the time you finish the game, it's like you're playing on easy mode the whole time. And with this game, they did not do that. And I absolutely love that. The game was challenging to me through and through, even though I went off on so many off-beaten paths, collected these cool ruins, upgraded my gear. The game never felt like I was becoming more powerful than what the developers wanted the final bosses to be like. So
yeah, I think also the bosses are done in a way that means that while you can do most of it in a certain way if you're leveled up nicely, it has those set piece moments that take you out of that boss routine stuff.
Yeah, even though the final Valkyrie that you fight, the big hardcore secret boss, you would think it'd be super hard, but to me it wasn't, because I fought all the other ones already, and the patterns are already there, as long as you just remember what they are. Because she just uses the combination of moves that all the other Valkyries use, so you just kind of have to watch out what she's going to do. And if you remember what those moves look like, the fight isn't really too difficult. It's sure a little time consuming because it's a long fight, but yeah, to me it was pure joy to do everything. I never got bored of doing anything in that game at all.
No, can't say I have, to be honest. It's I think my main thing was just once I'd finished the story, and it's all I'd been playing for days, and I was like, yeah, I'll have a rest for now, and come back to it, because it just I didn't want to burn out on it in that way. It's because I play in chunks normally, and it's nice to go straight back to something else as a palate cleanser, somewhat. Tim, how find you the world?
Running through the game the first time was just stellar and smooth, and it all felt so organic. I tended to come across Metroidvania issues, and I don't know if this is just because I don't play many Metroidvania games, but when I was trying to go back and do collectibles, I came across certain things that like kept getting in my way, and not like things that could be, unlocked. So, I just didn't have the right thing to get there. It was a story bit that happened that kept me from going back in that area. So I'd try to go through and clear out an area, and in order to clear out an area, I'd have to start on one end, do half of it, and then move to the other end and start and come back. And there were a good few instances like that. And as a completionist, that really grinded my gears, especially after having such a good time the first few times. The first run through, it was just a stupendous feeling the whole time. But yeah, having to go back and having to navigate in such odd ways really kind of took the piss a bit, to borrow an expression. But I mean, it wasn't awful because everything is still pretty accessible, and teleporting around is convenient enough. So it's just I wonder if it's one of those things that they didn't really want to cater to. Like, they made everything accessible at the end. You don't have to worry about missing anything, which is nice. But I wonder if it's one of those things that just didn't really want to think about through development.
Sure, it's. I think it's a catering to tastes and styles as well, which is difficult to do for everybody as well. It's like the idea of looting in games was just, I didn't get it. I didn't for years. It took a game doing it in an accessible way to make me appreciate it, which was Borderlands 2.
Ah, sure.
Yeah, they were perfect for it. And I understood the whole system of loot, which is good, really, because that's all the fucking games do these days. So I would have been right off the gravy train otherwise.
Yeah. So, since you mentioned it, Tim, there is one thing that really did bother me about the exploration and all that, and that's literally the fast travel system. I wish that I could have just traveled, but because they wanted to, I guess, keep the camera never cuts thing going through those doors and then waiting for the game to load before you can travel through to the next portal was just frustrating as hell to me.
Yeah, there was a lot of downtime, and it felt like that might as well have been a load time with how little you were doing.
And it's cool they try to mask it with, some backstory with Mimir talking the entire time, but then once there was no more dialogue recorded anymore, it's just this empty, boring spot that you just wait and wait.
Really? I can't say I found empty spots.
Yeah, I didn't find empty-ish.
Really?
Yeah. No, every time I went there, he talked.
Yeah,
give it a bit.
Yeah, he stops talking eventually.
Also, don't walk up to the side, and when it says press X, don't do it because you jump to your death.
Yeah, I did that.
But it's funny.
It's like, press here. I'm like, okay, this must be where I go. The first time I did it. And it's like, you died. I'm like, why? What happened?
That was the first time I died in the game as well.
Same.
It's just like came through there. Like, oh, okay.
So clearly Tim and I are the ones that experienced it, where I guess we heard all the dialogue there was to hear.
Yeah, it's this weird logic thing I got where it's like, why would they even mention it? It's like, why would they do it? Why would they have it? Let me do it. I want to do it. Oh, okay. So.
I didn't really use the fast travel though, so
I liked it as a thought. I liked that they had the commitment to the bit.
Yeah, I think I used it 5 times through my playthrough.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal what they've done with that. The whole one, tracking shot the whole way through is just ridiculous. And sometimes it works so well with scenes and stuff in a way that all cinematic camera cuts do it their own way of it. But this is just, again, another thing that feels very much like God of War in those big epic moments that still happen even with this new camera system. And it's just getting to a point in particular, the dragon boss battle, I mean, this is the first thing that really in the game that was like, fucking hell, what a game, that sort of thing for me. Because while it's a fairly standard boss battle in a lot of ways, it's just the last few minutes of it are just stupendously done. It's like you have the whole, QTE stuff and the Kratos going, right, well, fuck this. Clearly, I'm not going to hit it with my normal weapons, so let's just fucking spear it through the head. And it's the way that it does all that. All that happens, and the music is slowly getting louder as that happens, and then as that mouth falls right in front of Kratos, who's covered in blood and all that, and it's just that rousing bit of the soundtrack comes up at just that second, and it's just like, that is fucking masterful. That is wonderful how they've done that, and there's just lovely little moments like that throughout the game where it felt like you were always in the game, cutscene or not. If they were talking or not, you still felt invested and drawn into it, and that's the thing that comes with that whole one take thing.
That dragon fight though, it was so good.
Yeah, as I said, it was a moment. It was just really well done. Just and
the dwarf that just appears after you beat it as well just feels like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, oh man. I mean, not to divulge too much here again into story stuff, but there was stuff I'd read not long after that bit, after the dwarves and them coming back and stuff. We'll get to it in a minute with story, because otherwise it won't make sense in context, but we'll get there. Right, so anything else on the other stuff outside the story and characters that we want to talk about? Or should we move on to the meat, if you will, of this? Yeah, let's move to the meat. So yes, as we said, the story takes some interesting twists on Norse mythology. It doesn't follow it exactly, because if it did, my God, poor Atreus is going to be one fucking deviant child when he grows up. And the implications are there that there could be any number of theories as to that. I still, at the end of that game, get the theory that he is not Kratos' son, or if he is, that they're leading to what I was saying to Ben before, is that Thor has a son that is known as a stepson, who's an archer and was born of a giant, and in actual Norse mythology. So I do wonder if they're telling that story in the sense of that Kratos may not end up being the main guy in the next game, and they will have
the fact that he was using Spartan Rage kind of.
But it's like they had the electrical crackle around him a lot as well. It's just I know it could go either way. This is it. I think there was some deliberate misdirection as they came to it, because the main spoiler thing to take away from the end of the game is that Atreus' real name is Loki, and that's an interesting one to go, because that would make him Thor's uncle if you're going in proper Norse terms, but he clearly isn't that. I say clearly, the World Serpent came back in time, so what else came back in time? There's all sort of things that could happen there. We shall see. But yeah, it just threw up some really great questions and theories and stuff that could happen going forward, and what it could mean now. And for a long time, there was a great bit of misdirection, if you actually do follow Norse mythology, concerning Balder, which is, in mythology, Balder is, of course, immune to everything but mistletoe. Now, in mythology, the way that gets dealt with is that Loki finds out about that weakness and gives another god a spear made of mistletoe.
It was a blind god as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, a blind god to chuck spear of mistletoe at Balder, which kills him effectively, and he doesn't come back till Ragnarok as a result. So when the dwarves give you those, and obviously Freya just freaked out about it, that was like a big hello. And then I thought, are the dwarves going to turn out to be Loki? Just trying to sort of manipulate everyone, because that, honest to God, that would have been a really good twist. It would explain why they were everywhere. It would explain all this other stuff.
That would have been amazing, especially as they sort of,
Yeah, and he's a shapeshifter by nature, so it makes sense. Yeah,
and he's a trickster, so...
Yeah, that's it. It all led to that, and I think if anyone was trying to be all like smug about mythology and stuff, it's great misdirection. It's well done in that regard. Also slightly disappointing, but then rounded off by, honest to God, felt like a jaw dropper when they sort of revealed that his name was Loki, with Atreus.
Yeah. By the way, if I'm rightly, what happened was Freya, after Balder was born, because he looked so weak, she went to each...
Well, no, Freya wasn't his mother in Norse mythology.
But I can't remember. I thought it was...
Stepmother. Effectively. She came after.
Didn't she go to each deity to ask for his safety?
Yeah, and that's basically why he's immune to everything.
Except for mistletoe, because she thought it was too weak and wouldn't harm him.
Yeah. I mean, again, a character that is very different from mythology because he's handsome and charming and lovely, and I suppose there's a bit of that there. But here he kind of looks like a Norse junkie.
He looks like a Norse biker. I thought he was like the Norse god of tattoos and bike gangs.
Getting onto him straight away in that sense is obviously he's the first real test Kratos comes up against in a great scene setter. I found in terms of the story is that fight with Balder is just it sells that game wonderfully.
I wish we could hear Kratos' inner monologue, because I'm sure when Balder starts attacking him, he's thinking, this all over again. I just wanted to retire in the woods. Why?
Get too old for this shit.
I didn't even attack you guys this time. I'm just sat here looking after my kid.
Yeah, again, that's another bit of misdirection though, all throughout the game of who they're looking for exactly is dealt with like that, and obviously that gets resolved over time. But again, still kind of think they weren't just looking for one thing in the end. It's being Odin and Odin knowing everything. It's there's probably stuff that he didn't tell his
unless Odin's asleep.
Well, I don't know. The way the story went for me is that he was acting realistically under his own accord. I don't think any of this really had anything to do with Odin and Thor. I think Balder wanted to find Frey because he believed that she would be the only one who can cure him.
Freya, not Frey. Frey is the brother of Freya.
Frey was Kratos' wife.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm talking about. Sorry, yeah.
He was looking for Frey because he knew that she was half giant, or essentially giant, and he believed that the giants were the only ones who can cure him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so to me, the way I took it is, him and his two brothers were essentially acting on their own, and it wasn't Odin who really told them to do anything, and it wasn't Thor either.
I kind of believe both yes and no. I believe that he was sent there by Odin and Thor, but then him continuing to do it is out of his own actions.
I don't know, because Odin, like Neil said in actual Norse mythology, Balder, was it Balder? His name? Yeah. He was loved by everybody. He was like Jesus to them. And here, obviously, they kind of did it in a way.
Like a Jesus.
Well, I think the way they made him more angry and pissed off is because he became immortal, and not immortal. He became, he can't feel anything. And that eventually drove him angry at the curse that was put on him. But the curse was put on him to save his life. And so to me, the way I would see it is Odin would try to stop him if he knew what Balder was doing. Because it's also his son, it's his beloved son. Why would he want him to be killed? So that's how I took the story as. To me, I don't think Odin really has anything really going on in the story.
I don't know. It's just the background build of all the stories they tell you about him makes it sound like they have to bring him in as.
Oh no, they're definitely going to bring him in. Probably after whatever happens in the second game with Thor, and obviously Odin's going to be pissed because he freed Mimir as well.
Mm.
But as far as with Baldur, I think Baldur was acting on his own in this game.
Yeah, I think there is an aspect of that, and he probably did deceive Mihadi to make them go along with it. Magni and Modi, that's what I meant to say, which was the customary Sony video game Nolan North and Troy Baker cameo. Which was, I see as well, that Troy Baker thinking, well, what voice shall I do? I've done them all. I'll just pick the one from Shadow of War. I mean, it's literally it. He is just the ranger in that one. But probably the most underwhelming fight in a lot of ways, that one.
I loved the hell out of it. That was my favorite fight of the game.
I love the stuff around it, but the fight itself was a bit cheap, I felt.
I hated that fight so much.
Man, what the hell?
I know. It's dark.
That was my favorite fight in the whole game.
Only because there was snow, Garry.
I reckon the last Baldur fight I think is probably my favourite, just because it's just everything's on the line and there's so much going on drama wise around it, and it's good fun in that regard.
I'll be honest, during that fight I just kept screaming in real life, "Eat my axe!" while throwing at him. Have your tasty vitamin A.
Boy.
Eat my axe.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they change all these things going forward, because as I said, Baldur's damned to hell effectively by Loki in terms of they don't get him back, because Loki impersonating a giantess is the only person who refuses to prove that he is loved by all. So I don't think that's really going to work with this version of Baldur.
It'll be interesting, because when Baldur dies in Norse mythology, he brings Ragnarok that much closer. Like they said, it's like 100 winters too soon.
I think this the whole clue with the world servant being where he is when he shouldn't be is probably pointing out that there's a lot of things changing as a result of what's happened.
Well, no, I'm saying like in the actual Norse mythology, that's what happens as well.
Yeah,
which like I said, the way they blended the two, but also telling their own story, but also following how it's supposed to happen in Norse mythology as well, is fantastic, and it's brilliant the way they did it.
It's a really good mix. That's what I like.
And in Norse mythology, they try to prevent Ragnarok by going, to Helheim and bargaining with Hela to get Baldur's soul back.
Yeah, which they said ends up failing probably because of Loki, as they say. It's just
and it'll be interesting to see if they follow that path in the next game. If Kratos does decide, okay, in order to stop the world from ending, like it did in my time, because I caused it to end with Greek mythology in a way, I can stop this one from ending if I go and bring his body back. Or his soul.
It's basically inserting Kratos into things where the world ends and just saying he's the fault of it.
Again.
But Kratos is always the one to try and break loops. So I can see him trying to cause Ragnarok but have it end differently than normal. Because remember, Ragnarok is always a loop.
Yes, it's it. And now that his motivations have changed, because he has changed enough over the story, he's learned his anger has not got him anywhere but hurt and misery and pain. He's still very much into the violence regardless of that. And it's the Loki thing's the weird thing, because especially as Atreus has that mid-game weird mini turn when he finds out he's a god, and he just starts being an absolute arsehole.
I loved it, and I wish it would have lasted, because he changes back to his regular self so quickly that it was kind of irritating, because it was so great seeing, okay, I have this power, I'm a god, everybody should worship me, and how he talks to the dwarves, and how Kratos starts to get irritated with him, was probably some of the best dialogue between the two in that entire game for me.
Yeah, I mean, it comes to a head, and it had to be tempered, I think. But he definitely changes as a character after that. As much as he still gets to be calm.
Hey, do you think he also teased the fact that he's Loki during that as well? Because he's like, I wonder if I can turn into a wolf.
Yeah, I love that. When you look back after, you go, yeah, it makes sense. It's like, no, but you may fuck one, and one of these days.
Maybe one day, boy.
Okay. Oh.
Have we lost Neil? Hello?
I'm still here.
I'm still here. Sorry, I had a Google Drive thing, a OneDrive thing open, and it apparently decided to have a Skype call at the same time.
Okay.
Chris was trying to call us. So,
Well,
Tim, you've been.
Yeah, most of my time I've spent in the game, it was kind of just in the moment, especially in a lot of the bigger centerpieces, and even right now, I'm recalling them as you guys have been talking about them. But I mean, those aren't really the parts of the game that really came with me once I was done. It was more of the subtle moments, there were a little bitty ones kind of along the way, but the first major one that really stuck with me was the first moment when Atreus let him down. And you could see the genuine disappointment. You had the general angst of a kid that he's dealing with and whatever, and it was just back and forth. And there was a lot of charm with that. But it came to this head at a certain point where Atreus was really just, turning into the bastard side of Loki, just really getting taken in by his powers and things, and it just overtook his entire mannerism, and he went off the wall and put everybody in danger, and you could see that moment was when Kratos was disappointed. The first time he was disappointed in Atreus, even all those times that he called him boy and degraded him with things like that and talked down to him, he never was disappointed up until that point. And yeah, it was times like that when they were having actual human connections. That was when it really, those are the parts that came with me. And I mean, even as you guys mentioned them, the set pieces come back. And now that you mention it, I think about when Kratos just standing there and the dragon drops down and both sides of his mouth and end up on both sides of him, and that was a really cool moment too. But yeah, it's really just those subtle moments that really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's understandable. That's what I mean. For a game that has these big bombast action set pieces, it does also have these lovely little tender human moments, right? Human as you can be, being gods, I suppose. But yeah, it's hard. It's definitely a far cry from what we had with Kratos.
No, this is definitely not a far cry.
Yes, definitely not. There are no towers to climb that need climbing outside. Just a mountain. Hashtag the mountain. But yes, that's. I think everyone's had their say on that bit, have they?
Well, almost.
Except one person.
Except someone has teleported in at the last second here off the world tree himself. It is Alfonso. How do you?
The world tree.
Always good to be.
From Helheim himself. I'm just kidding, Alfonso. Well, hey, you're part of the most powerful realm. You should be happy.
Fair enough.
You think he was that big bird sitting in the background, just watching over everybody? It's you realize in terms of that's actually pretty complimentary, because you're one of the major signs of Ragnarok. The moment you say anything is the moment of Ragnarok is coming. It's kind of cool. I'm really jealous of you.
I'll take that, Tim. I'll take that.
I'm really jealous of you right now.
It's the thing he'll say. It's something inappropriate to his girlfriend.
No. Well, I guess.
All I'm going to say is Big Bird's new job after Sesame Street is a bit more important than he had.
See, I missed this. See, I missed it. I truly missed this.
And now you're back.
Yeah. So, Alfonso, while you're here, how was the story of God of War for you?
It's a little different. Now knowing that he's a son. He has a son with him. I want to say it's 50-50 because when he was by himself, Kratos didn't care. He did what he wanted with no remorse. But now that he has a son, he's trying to change. He's trying to do better. He doesn't want to show him the path of what he done in the past, which I understand. But it's like I didn't feel like the game had a lot of epic bloody moments like it did in the past games because of him trying to teach his son, yes, you do have to kill, but only protect himself, where in the past he just killed to kill. And yes, I understand they're trying to take a different path, and I love it, but I wasn't feeling that old Kratos like in the previous games. Yeah. So I'm kind of 50-50. I hope they take a different path if they decide to make a sequel when Atreus gets a little bigger. But yeah, I'm 50-50 with the story. I still enjoy it with all the graphics and the different mechanics of the gameplay.
I wanted to murder more things.
Yeah.
And who learned the lesson least? Oh, dear.
I see it a little differently, Alfonso. I see it as Kratos realized that because of his anger, he killed everything, and he killed essentially an entire continent. Everybody died there because of his selfish reasons, just because he was angry at his dad. And in this one, you see now that he has a son, and you see throughout the game where every time Atreus gets angry, Kratos is the one who's trying to calm him down in a way, even though he's also getting frustrated with him. And I think it's one of those things where Kratos realizes that he made a mistake and he doesn't want his son to make the same mistakes he did. It's essentially him being an actual father.
Yeah, that is a thing of fatherhood, to be honest. It's like all the things you realize, oh shit, I used to do this awful stuff, but now I have to go and sound almost hypocritical and tell my own children not to do the silly things I did.
And even when it comes to the dwarves, like he admits, they're pissing me off, they're irritating me, but he also gets mad at Atreus for getting mad at them because he knows they're useful and he shouldn't talk to them when they're trying to help him. And Kratos sees that, he's getting irritated with them, but he's still letting them help him. Whereas Atreus is more like, oh, I'm a god, bow to me, bitches. And
which I totally hate. He was like bragging that on so many times, like, just shut up. Every minute, oh, I'm a god, we could do this, gods could do this, I'm powerful. It's like, no, you know nothing about what you are. Shut up. It's annoying.
For me personally, I think this was a fantastic character progression for Kratos. Is essentially in the entire movie, in my opinion, you can see it in his face and his eyes every time he looks at Atreus. Is like he feels remorse and he feels guilt for what he did. And
also, I'd recommend if you're trying to make it a serious game, don't spend your entire stream calling him Atreyu. And then take the piss off and take the piss that the dragon doesn't look anything like he did in the never ending story. It's like, you've changed.
Oh boy.
That's it.
Atreyu.
But that's my opinion on Kratos this time, and to me, I just see it that way. I see like his facial expressions and everything. You see how he looks at Atreus, and he essentially sees himself. And he doesn't want to be like, why did Kratos become the way he is? I mean, his family got murdered by him because he wanted power. And it's essentially the same cycle repeating, but now it's with his own son. And he's trying to stop his son from becoming like everybody. They even foreshadow it throughout the entire game, and they even talk about it at the end, where Atreus even says, "Are all children doomed to kill their own fathers?"
Yeah.
And
Which, given what that little tablet of prophecy seemed to suggest, is all of this, his little mini turn is a foreshadowing for the future. Because it seems...
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see, because that's the big mural that is the big question mark. What's actually happening there? I mean, we see Kratos is essentially dead, but we also see some weird snake shed moving through their mouths. So is it Atreus who kills him and takes his soul? Does Kratos sacrifice his soul himself to save Baldur and stop Ragnarok? It's almost impossible to know what's going on there.
What if... I like this idea someone had. What if Loki uses the power of Kratos to make, the serpent? That's why the serpent can live for so long, because he's technically got the immortal spirit of Kratos.
Yeah, but then also because in mythology the serpent is a god too. It's or part god, I should say.
What if that part is Kratos?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is technically, if Atreus is Kratos' son, then it is part of Kratos. But I don't know. I reckon there's a lot of timey-wimey, travel-wabbly going on involved in this story. That's,
I mean, they could essentially give what people want, and just if they do a next game, they can do something where, okay, Thor takes Atreus with him and forces Kratos to go get Baldur back, by taking his son as a hostage, and then everybody can get their angry, ragey Kratos back.
No, I want a buddy cop movie with Thor and Kratos and Atreus. It's like, we don't like each other, we've got to team up sort of thing. That'd be grand. Just like the axe and hammer. Woof, come on.
What if they could switch between each other as well?
They need to get Chris Hemsworth to do his voice, though.
Like, swapping weapons as they're fighting.
Oh, man. Oof. Yeah, we're going to have to wait a while to find that out.
I don't think we'll wait that long. I think 2 years, maybe?
Yeah, still, that's a couple of years, It's,
considering the fact that all the beautiful games we got on the way, we can't complain.
Well, you still have to consider they have to remaster the game for the PS5. Yeah. They'll probably do that first.
Well, I don't think.
And we'll see the sequel.
I don't think there'll be any remastering going on next gen in that sense. Not of PS4 games, anyway. It's,
not really.
Yes. So, favourite moments and characters, I think that's what we should definitely go around and do. Alfonso, as you have joined late on this fair evening, what were your favourite characters and moments from the entire game?
Okay, favorite moment would have to be when Kratos met the stranger, as we know as Baldur, and he's trying to stop him and saying, "You do not want to do this," and then he finally hits him, and then Baldur hits him back. Then I was, okay, now it's about to get serious. Because Kratos is like, all right, time to take off the gloves. Time to kill this nigga. But, sorry. But then he's confused. He's confused of how he know him and all that. Like that whole moment in terms of how he was confused of how he knows him and his past, do he know his past? And then he's like, okay, I can't stay here. I have to take Atreus with me. Because at that point, he was saying that he wasn't ready. And I like Atreus because I see some Kratos in him in terms of how he wants to progress and he wants to get better in terms of his training. So that whole moment for me was, I like that moment. The other moment I like was the end. How Baldur, first of all, he's just a crazy person. I don't know why you want to kill your own mom. I mean, yes, I understand Kratos and Zeus, the similar, but that I don't like that. I didn't like that how he throughout the whole game, well, not the whole game, but during the mentioning of Freya and him, he just want to kill her, and then Kratos come out of nowhere and snap his neck for a second time. I really enjoy that. Another moment I like was the fight between Atreus, Kratos, and that dragon. like at that time I had no life, so I was like, please don't let me fight this dragon right now because I have no life and I do not want to die, because my brother was challenging me to see who would die first in the game, and I was close, but I managed to pull it off. And just seeing that moment, him standing there, and then the dragon's mouth drop right between him, was awesome.
It seems to be a consensus that moment. It's a big moment.
Yeah. Favorite characters? Brock. I love him. The way he talks is just funny. He has to be by one of my top favorites. I don't like his brother. His brother is like a little, like a wuss. Like seriously, he's like a germaphobe. You don't want to touch nothing. Always gagging and throwing up. I don't like his brother. What was I like? Atreus. He has moments, even though that annoying God part was annoying, but I like Atreus too. That's it, really. I don't really like Freya. Yeah, I'm not feeling Freya. I mean, yes, I'm grateful for her for helping us when Atreus was sick, but I don't have no vibe when it comes to Freya. So that's mostly those two only.
Yeah, fair enough. Ben, this could be you.
Mimir was my favourite character.
And moment.
He was the best. Seriously, finding out all the different bits of lore from him, just all these different stories while they're on the boat. It was just really good.
It's like having a literal talking head segment. It's just there spouting off the exposition, and it's a nice way of doing it. He did unfortunately remind me too much of like the guy who runs the workshop in How to Train Your Dragon, and in terms of how he spoke. That's what I kept thinking of. But he's a fun character.
Well, it's like you compared to one scene to Finding Nemo.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So. What can we do that in a second? In a second, because that's well, do yours and I'll mention that. Cause oh, someone dropped out.
Oh, we lost Alfonso.
Oh, he's gone again. Okay. Well, nice to have you, Alfonso.
He's gone now. His planet needs him.
Oh, he's back again.
Oh, he's back.
He's back again. Alfonso, what's going on?
I don't know. There was a like the Skype calling music in the background.
Oh,
so,
okay. Have you got Hotmail or something open on your computer?
No. I'm using Skype on my phone.
Okay.
So yeah, I closed out and opened again, and then it went away. So
yes, I think the common consensus is Microsoft. Fuck off. It is it. So yeah. So Mimir was your favourite thing, basically, Ben.
Yeah, pretty much. Mimir was my favourite.
Any particular moment that you would say, I like that moment?
Not really, because I liked all his moments pretty much. Oh! When he got the bit with the World Serpent confused, and he said that you were friends with Thor, and he gets pissed when you meant to say, oh no, they're enemies of Thor.
Yeah, so that scene... The whole translating what the World Serpent can say, it's like, honest to God, there's no way that isn't a homage to Finding Nemo when Dory talks to the whale, because it's just the whole thing is exactly the same, the whole drawn out speak, and it's just like, and the fact that it works despite sounding ridiculous, I thought that's brilliant. It's brilliant. And yet I've not seen an outlet pick it up as being that, or asking Corey Barlog if that's the case. Should do that, really. Should say, hey, is this a Finding Nemo reference? It damn well seems like it.
That'd be amazing if he says yes.
I would be. So, Tim.
Wait, before Tim go, I forgot I had one more moment. Forgot. When Kratos got the Blaze back, the Blaze of Chaos, Blaze back, and Athena came and said, that you will never change, and he said, I know, and and he was saying that you won't control me no more. That was like an epic moment for me, where he said that, because like now he's like finally done. I don't need to deal with that type of mythology anymore. It's like he left that in the past. Like at that point when he got back to Blaze, even though he was hesitant to get them, I feel like he finally embraced it, that in order to save my son, I need to use what I put away in the past. And I find that as an epic moment. Yeah, that was my last one. That, to me, that was the biggest one throughout the whole game.
Cool. Excellent. So, sorry, yes, Tim. If he hasn't stolen your moment, that is.
Yeah, that's a really good moment. That's one of my favorites. But I kind of piggyback. I started laughing earlier because I'm going to piggyback Ben's Mimir shout out, because one of my favorite lines of his was when he was talking about trying to convince Brock and Sindri to change the eyes to the all-seeing eyes to his nipples.
Oh yeah, his nipples.
Getting him drunk and almost convincing him. Mimir.
Mimir, the all-seeing teat, wasn't it?
The all-seeing teat.
Bifrost teat, that's it. Teat of the Bifrost.
Teats of the Bifrost.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, I was dying and rolling at the same time. That was such a. But yeah, I know there's a lot of. I don't know if there's a lot of hate for Sindri, but I really was fond of Sindri. Like, Brock made me laugh, but Sindri, I could just get. Like, I got a feel for him. You didn't really know much about them, but him being a germaphobe and having all these issues, it kind of showed a strength of character that he was willing to surpass his own issues or even deal with his own issues to help them out. Like, it really shows that he loves what he does. And even though he has plenty of character flaws, and that can be kind of tropey in itself, but I just really loved him. There was no really real one moment that did it for me, but he just had such a unique character in a palette of very deadpan, angry, snarky people.
Yeah.
And I know he basically is part of the comic relief, but yeah, they really put a lot of heart and soul into his character, and I loved him.
Yeah, I think they complemented each other well. Together, it's why together they can make the perfect kind of weapons and things. It's because you have a perfectionist and you have a grafter, and they just do the work together nicely.
Yeah. And another moment is once they finally get back together, Brock and Sindri, they're working on something special, and Atreus asks him what he's making, and Brock says, Nunya. Nunya. What? Nunya? None of your fucking business. Oh,
man.
Yeah.
Just, for a game that you expected to be gory and visceral and violent like that, it was still kind of shocking to hear someone swear quite as much as Brock does. Because some of the stuff he comes out of, oh man, it's breathtakingly good swears. And
another one was. He was talking about how cold it was. It's one of the first signs of Ragnarok for being this long winter. But he said, you can definitely tell this is the full winter, I think is what it's called. Yeah. He's I can feel it in my scrot, he said. Died. I remember that scene because I was I generally would always just run away from them. And they had those little off-key banters that they do, and that was one of them. And I was halfway down toward the door when he got to that point, and I just stopped and started laughing. And yeah, I loved it. They were really a nice addition to a very serious, somber game. Yeah,
and it wasn't overdone and
no.
It was just his swearing is just so casually done. And just I think that's why it's oh, okay. It's because it's I like swearing, but there's no anger to it. It's just this is the way I talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In terms of moments, I've already brought up the one where Kratos is disappointed in Atreus, and I was so fond of that moment because of, I don't know, despite itself, he was so almost belligerent to Atreus, trying to keep him in line and trying to teach him these things, and not trying to go overboard with anything, and he showed his wit's end at times, like parents do and things, but there was never any sense of disappointment until that moment, and it really hit home what Atreus meant to him. Everything going forward kind of just resonated on that one point. And It was, yeah. The game did a really good job of stopping everything and just kind of doing a close cut with Kratos and Atreus doing the dad-son moments, and yeah.
I think you said dab son moment then. I was like,
No, I would never. I would never.
That would definitely ruin the historical side of the game. Just right. Start dabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. Oh dear. Sorry.
Kratos would never dab because dabbing is a sign of losing.
Yeah.
It's like a guaranteed thing. It happened to LeBron.
Oh, jeez.
Happened to Cam Newton.
We're getting topical up in this place.
Mm-hmm.
Garri, what about you? What you got?
My favorite moment is the same one that Alfonso had, and as the first time you fight Baldur as the stranger. That fight was just fantastic. Because, you see Kratos just wail on him a little bit, and then he just sends Kratos flying with a single punch. And then just the destruction of that fight was great.
And the goading that he does to Kratos, just like basically saying, "You can't kill me. You're nothing. You're disappointed." Just like it just invests you in fighting him, and as you go on in the game, every time you encounter him, it's just like you're a fuckwit, and I want to just smash your face. It's like just great. That's brilliant because it's how he's written.
Yeah, it really reminded me of the fights you have in Asura's Wrath. If anybody's played that game, it's just so over the top, and everything's just being destroyed around them. And it was cool that they added these kind of destructible areas, like you can destroy the trees, and some of the boulders get destroyed. It's only for that fight, though, and because clearly you can't destroy shit in the actual game. But in that fight, it was great to see it because that's how it should have been. And yeah, just their power, and you see, Kratos rage out, and you see that he's able to heal himself as well using his powers, just like Baldur can. Fantastic stuff, really. As far as favorite character, I would have to say Brock. He's just too goddamn funny. Every time he showed up, it was just pure humor all the time. Just the way he talks to them, it was great. There is something I also do want to talk about before we wrap up, though, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
And that's about Freya. And my theory on Freya is that she, in my opinion, is the main villain of the story. And it's all from the stuff that I listened to Mimir talk about, and all the things that I kind of read in the game. And the big thing that really gave it away was the fight with the Valkyrie, the Queen of the Valkyries, and what she said. And so throughout the game, we hear about how Freya was betrayed by Odin and how she's angry with him and all this stuff. And to me, this is a big revenge story for her. I personally feel the reason in this story, not Norse mythology, she knows that the only way to kill Odin was to use Baldur, the guy who can't die, who can't feel pain. And she wanted him to take the revenge for her. And now that he's dead, she's pissed because what can she possibly do? We also see this with the Valkyrie. We find out, throughout the story that the Queen of the Valkyries had corrupted Valkyries. And the Valkyries are the ones who determine who goes to hell and who goes to, what is it called? Asgard. For the battle in Ragnarok. They separate the souls. And now hell is overflowing with souls because the Valkyries are corrupted. And we assume that it was the Queen of the Valkyries, but the Queen of the Valkyries straight up says that Freya is the true Queen of the Valkyries. So if it wasn't her, then it had to be Freya who corrupted them. And why would she corrupt them unless she wants to bring about Ragnarok and destroy Odin, because he literally destroyed her entire life. He destroyed the giants, the people she loved and adored. Everything in that game, in my opinion, is hinting at Freya setting up this massive, elaborate scheme to kill Odin.
Because she can't directly do anything herself.
Yeah, because she's a witch. There's a reason she's forbidden to travel the realms. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on that essentially points fingers, or in a way goes back to Freya, because she has some sort of connection to everything that Mimir is talking about.
I mean, it's a weird thing. It's it kind of goes round back to the mythology, where it kind of follows into the mythology but doesn't. Where in obviously Frigg, who is Baldur's mother in actual mythology, made sure there was no mistletoe, stuff like that, and Loki finds out about the mistletoe being a problem. Now in the game, when Freya sees the mistletoe arrows, she gets rid of them, burns them, let's say they're poisoned, and you know why as a result. But as an oversight, she doesn't notice that the clasp is made of that. So all in all, the same result that comes out of it. It's like, and she still ends up, like in mythology, the mother of Balder ends up despising Loki as a result, as knowing that she's been tricked. So it that much is still playing into it, which is nice to see. So it may well tie back into the idea of people having to be dragged into getting Balder to come back to stop Odin.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions in this game. A lot of them, in my opinion.
Which is great, in my opinion, as well, because I like that. I'd rather it wasn't so clear cut.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they mentioned who rang the horn when they came back and it was destroyed. We don't know who did that. Who would call the world serpent? There's just so much stuff that's still unknown, and like you said, I can't wait to see how they answer a lot of these questions that they left open. So I had 4 of them in my head, and then they just kind of just vanished as I was talking. Except that the horn one. So, that's my opinion of it. I think Freya is essentially the big schemer here of what's going on, and she might find out that, hey, if Baldur can't do it, Kratos can, and she's going to manipulate Kratos into doing it for her.
It could well be a case of different sides manipulating what they want, which be very much in keeping. So grand stuff. Obviously we'll throw in with my favorite stuff, the whole ending, not the end where you go back home, but the ending of the reveal of who Loki is, the mural on the wall, which suggests of what will happen perhaps, and just the whole the releasing of the ashes just fits everything into a lovely little ball while still keeping the questions open. And just as far as characters go, we've mentioned him a lot despite no one picking him as a character, but Balder is a fascinating character because he is such an arsehole, and you really just want to punch the shit out of him every time you fight him. But then you learn the tragedy of him, and that he just does not want to be like this. He doesn't want to be immortal. He wants someone who can end it for him. And he ends up more angry that you're not the one to do it than anything. And just that whole freeway end battle of trying to stop him killing Freya whilst also trying to stop him and like that, and it ended no winners in the end on that battle. It's like in trying to protect Freya, you've made Freya your worst enemy, and it's, as you say, Garri, it sets it up nicely for what is to come, which is fantastic. So as we are in the video game journalism industry, some of us, and people like numbers, we know Ben's score, but obviously there were lots of scores thrown out here, there, and everywhere. On your personal levels, guys, what would your score be for God of War? Alfonso?
100.
100 out of 10.
It's a brilliant game from beginning to end. I don't honestly. I do not see no flaws in this game. And you already know, like, besides God of War, in terms of the PS4 exclusive that came out in the last 2 years, which was Uncharted 4 and Horizon. Comparing those three, I do not see no flaws in God of War.
Yeah, fair enough. Tim?
Is this out of 100?
Any number you want, man. Would I say 64? Say 64. It's fine. Out of 2, whatever.
Oh my god, I would never. I would give it a solid 9.
Yeah.
And all of my qualms are technical, and there are a few of them, but like the game is too charming and too well executed for anything less.
Yeah, I'd probably have to concur on a 9, just because it's surprising how well it's all done, considering all the talk about it before the game came out of like, oh, I'm worried about this. It doesn't look like God of War. This isn't right. That isn't right. Which seems to be with every Sony exclusive. People say the same thing and then turn around and it's a new excuse. But yeah, it's a 9. As you say, it's not as groundbreaking as it gets made out in some reviews, but I think it's got enough going on that's just so well done, so tied in. Everything's so nicely tied in the way it works, and that's all you can ask for. I think it's granular. Ben, we don't need to ask you, do we?
What if I want to give it a different score than 8 out of 10? I'm going to go with 8 out of 10.
That soapbox feels pretty good.
And Garri, what about you?
I'd give it a 9.5 for me.
9.5.
Like Alfonso said, there's really not much that I did not like about this game. And most of my problems only came from either some controls, some very frustrating encounters, and honestly, those are really the only 2 things that I could think of that bothered me in the game.
I just think I'm becoming a miserable bastard with games. So, I'm not miserable. I think it's been a year of, as much as there have been good games, there's been a lot of, just like, it's all right. I don't mind this. It's a very different year to last year in that regard. That there's less of this middle tier of stuff where it's like, yeah, I got a few games I'd say that's 9 out of 10, and here's some games I'd say that's 9.5, maybe 10. But I know we're only halfway through, and there's all sorts of things that can happen. But yeah, it's a very good game, better than probably most expected it to be. But I don't know. I still think there will be better this year, easily. Very different games probably, but in terms of if you're just going for overall as a game sort of thing. Yeah, so that's the God of War talk as it is. All the spoilers. We didn't do Infinity War because not everyone here watched it, and I know one person wouldn't. But
I can't wait till we can spoil that though.
Well, at this point, it's like when. That's the main problem. That is the main problem. But I think we've gone on long enough, so we will stop it there. And then next week we'll return to regular Unchained action, and we'll actually
until E3, which will be like a couple of weeks later.
Yeah. There's all that, and then we'll have stuff like Detroit, and that coming, and yeah, there'll be talk about all sorts of things as we go along, I am sure. In the meantime, you can catch us on the Twitters at PodUnchained. You can email myself at neil.psu.com for any questions and answers, etc., and maybe just to ask me if I like my SEO. I get a lot of those. But other than that, I will leave you with my esteemed colleagues now to go through their details. Tell them they want to tell you, sorry, where to follow them, where to find them online, and basically pimp out shit that they do. Starting with you, Mr. Bagdazarov.
You can't find me. I'm invisible.
Sure.
I've been
Thank God.
standing there for an hour. Nobody's noticed.
I get that reference.
I mean,
It's
I
one of
don't
the greatest moments in that movie, man.
But you eating crisps.
the whole
I'm invisible.
him.
You can find me on Twitter at Gaglaush. That's GAGLAUSH.
Excellente. Tim.
I gotta say, Gary, I say it all the time, but I love that name. I just love it. But
Thanks.
thanks for having it. But you can find me pretty much everywhere, basically Instagram and Twitter at Timberelli, TIMBERELLI.
Excellent. Also,
You can find me on Twitter at AllyShan7. That's ALLYSHAN7. Want to shout out to you guys. Shout out to all the listeners. It feels so good. Feels good to be back. And Gary, I have exciting news to you. Exciting news. Shannon finally accepted you. No more hate on you. No more hate.
Oh,
Yes.
shit. What'd you do?
It's not what I did. It's what Chris did. Remember the podcast? I think it was last week's podcast or the week before, where y'all kept forgetting things and you kept getting bashed by Chris. I made her listen to her just so you see that Gary's not a bad guy, and she's like, you know what? He's not. So good news for Gary.
Does she hate Chris now?
Bad news for Chris. Yeah, she hates
Yeah,
Chris.
baby.
Yeah.
Boy, that sounds like information
Sorry,
control.
Chris. You listen to this. I'm sorry. I can't.
Man, that sounds like information control right there.
That's it.
Sounds like the truth to me. Thanks, Fonzie. I appreciate it.
Ben.
Of course.
Ben.
Okay, I've learnt the powers of speaking super fast, so I'm going to do all my shout-outs really quickly because I have a lot of them. Okay, everyone ready? Okay. I'd like to shout out to Volmedic at twitch.tv/Volmedic. I'd like to shout out to Phoenix Down Radio, Klaus Nightbringer, Luna Fox Air. I'd like to shout out to She Hills I Tank at twitch.tv/SheHills. I'd like to shout out to Maelstrom Radio at Radio. I'd like to shout out to everyone that's listening right now. Thank you all for listening. And I'll see you all next week.
I think you said the same thing, and we just got confused.
Well, maybe you got confused.
I'm sad again.
Excellent.
Excellent.
By the way, all this excellent talk, there is a new Bill and Ted movie coming out.
Yeah, I'm so on for that. So
Excellent.
on.
Bogus.
There's no bogus to it, I'm telling you. If Def's going to be in it as well, again, that's even better. So, let's be gone, yeah? We have been done, we go, and now is the end of the podcast. Tatty bye.